Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. After over 14 years of being in business and running multiple companies, I felt called to start this show. I see many people struggling to start or grow a business, which is why I want to help entrepreneurs achieve success in business quicker, more effectively, and sustainably. Today, I have an awesome guest. She is an entrepreneur, consultant, best-selling author, and podcast host. She helps you to work on your business instead of in your business by focusing on numbers and systems so you create the required momentum to grow your business exponentially. Welcome, Mona Tenjo, and thank you for being on my show.
Thank you so much for this great introduction. It's great to be here, and thanks a lot for the invitation.
Yeah, awesome. Great to have you here as well. And yeah, it's going to be an awesome show, I'm sure, for everybody. So yeah, you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us more about you and your journey.
Sure. So let me start with today, because that's most recent and most interesting. So today I am the CEO and co-founder of Work On Your Business, as you already mentioned that in your introduction. So Work On Your Business is about helping entrepreneurs to work on your business instead of in it, which can be very different in what we do. So in summarizing, you could say we help you implement your ideas with whatever you need. So that can really be like, currently I'm working, for example, on a project which is about helping somebody to hire an assistant and getting them on track. So we're training the assistant, we help them in interviewing them, pick the right person. That same person now is also asking me to help them get a branding consultant, because it's, you know, it's often that people don't know how to interview people or how to find the right fit for them. But also with that same person, for example, we did before system implementations, like a CRM system, an accounting system. What we also do a lot is websites. We do online shops, anything what you need for implementing your idea. So you come up with an idea, I have a new product, I have an idea how to grow my business, but then I don't have the skills or the experience to know how do I get this on the road? How do I really make this happen? I have a background of project management, so this is why this is my passion. So I make it happen on the way. So even if I don't know how it works, I figure it out on the way. Because I was a consultant for many years. So I was working with multinational companies like Siemens, like Deutsche Post, where I helped them implement strategic purchasing systems. I'm not a purchaser by nature. I had to learn this as well on the job, because in university, that is not a subject that we could pick. So I just started my career after university really in consulting. And I was headhunted by a big international company that saw me in one of the meetings and said, we need that person on our side. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that, but let me tell you from the beginning, I'm going to be gone after the project, because by that time it was already clear I'm going to have my own business. And I said, it's a cool project, I'm going to do it. But after the project, I'm gone, which happened last year when I started my own business. I have a background of business, international business. So I studied international business. I lived in Brussels for half a year, actually altogether for 1 year. So I was twice in Brussels. They asked me to come back after some time. I did lobbying in the European Union. I was studying in Spain, in Madrid. And I was really like trained from the basics. So when I was 18, I started an apprenticeship and really started the whole groundwork on accounting and all of these things that, you know, you need to learn when you go into a profession. So I had to really learn everything from the basics, file the archive, you know, all the stuff that nobody wants to do. Like, you have to start somewhere, right? And I worked my way all the way up to now having my own business.
Yeah. That's awesome. You've got some amazing experience there with, you know, European Union, working in, you know, studying different countries and everything like that. And, you know, and I think, you know, a big thing there is like, you know, the really big companies you worked for and, you know, journey there in different project management and IT and things like that. So do you want to just maybe share a little bit about that experience of sort of, I guess, the different types of projects or things that you worked on maybe in there?
Sure, I can do that. So when I started in consulting, we pretty much, I mean, I was really young, so of course I had to do everything. So I started as a normal employee. I started as a consultant, like implementing the project. So the manager was giving us the strategy, and then I had to implement it, no matter if it worked or not. So I just had to figure it out. Of course, I built great relationships on the way. And I mean, the type of projects were very similar because the topic was always the same, but of course the size depended a lot. So we had small companies with like 50 people. I mean, this is like small because it's corporate, you know, so corporate has different sizes than when we talk about small businesses. But like the smallest company started with, because I mean, honestly, a strategic purchasing system only makes sense when you have a certain amount of purchase volume. Otherwise, there's no return on invest. So when we come later to the numbers, we can talk about that. So it only makes sense when you have enough volume to even generate a return on invest. So the smallest companies were around 50 people. And then you had big companies like Siemens, where, I mean, just in my stream, I mean, I was in charge for the most complicated stream because they had a system in place already and we had to replace it, and people had really high expectations. So I was in charge for sourcing and auctioning. And then just in my stream, it was about 34 people that I directly had to deal with. And I mean, this project, you had to multiply it by 6. So it was the overall project team that we had to deal with, you know. So that's a whole different size. And of course, behind each of that people that I had to deal with, there were another 20 people. So that's the amount of size, how it was basically aggregated. And of course, the focus in such projects is very different. So when you have a small company of 50 people, you pretty much go straight to the content. There's not much policy, you know, it's just straight through. But when you are on the big projects, I mean, I was pretty much on the phone all day long because we had to align about strategies. Like some people are not aligning with the strategy. How do we handle that? Shall the project manager of the customer handle that? Shall I handle that? So that's a whole different topic that you have to discuss. And of course, for such things, you need a little bit of experience on how do you manage people, you know, what is the right strategy to go forward. So there you cannot be like a newbie, because you will be lost. They will just run over you. So you have to be able to manage groups, and it's not so much about the software implementation itself. Of course, you need the knowledge, but it's more about managing the people in that case. So it was very, very different things.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's really awesome that different experience, like you said, depending on the level that they're at. But, you know, like you said, you need buy-in from the people. Obviously, there's the subject matter experts, you know, within a business that you need their input. It's very important to make sure that
we speak the same language. That's so cool. most people don't know what subject matter experts are, actually. So just for you guys who don't know what it is, the subject matter experts are people who are specialized. For example, in Siemens, let me just give this example. We had people who were coming from the sourcing department, so the real purchasing people, who were subject matter experts at the sourcing. So they know how to qualify their suppliers, they know how to make an auction, you know. And then we had people who were only responsible for the process. So they were process people, just looking, is this aligned with our overall processes? So they were expert in that piece, you know. And then you had the IT people, of course, who had different expertise. So each of them is a subject matter expert, you know, just for those of you who don't know what that is.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And, you know, it's really important. I used to be one, you know, at my previous company, and, you know, I worked in a lot of different projects as well with implementing, you know, various systems, efficiencies with reporting. We even I helped with the tender to win Department of Defense for my previous company. And then I was actually sitting with IT for 9 months as the middleman between the business and IT, because I had the technical knowledge, not a developer technical, but the technical process knowledge and things to be able to speak IT language without, you know, being in IT and that technical, which is important, you know, because sometimes you speak to IT people and the business people can't communicate that well, which you probably know of as well.
I know, so good. I was sitting in meetings, honestly, where we had IT departments of my company and of the other company. And I was sitting in the middle and I thought, they have no idea what they're talking about. And they talk to each other. They're like, yeah, we agree. And they talk. And I'm like, they have no idea what they're talking about. And then I just like, okay, let me just ask a very stupid question before we leave, because they were already wrapping it up. I was like, okay, what do you mean with a customization and what do you mean with a customization? They're like, we mean programming. No, we just mean putting on a switch. Okay, round two, let's go. Because they were talking about totally different things with the same words, but they had no idea that they had different meanings for each of them. And suddenly you realize, like, we're not talking about the same thing. And then I was a stupid one saying, like, do you know what that means for you?
Yeah. Well, you frame it that it's the stupid question, but really you're the smart one because you understand that, that there's a disconnect here, and that's probably why they have the issues that they have. And
in many companies, yes.
Yes, definitely. And you know, and obviously it depends, like you said, on the size. So the bigger companies, there's a lot more touch points, like you said. Like I can only imagine 36 people underneath, and that would have been massive. But then even, you know, in the smaller businesses, there's still that aspect, or, you know, even if you're working with a solopreneur where it's the one person where they do everything. So it's, you know, they're technically the subject matter expert because they know everything. Whether or not they do everything, you know, properly, or they're thinking of everything is another thing. That's where obviously, you know, coaching and mentoring and things can help them, or consulting in other ways there. But yeah, it's really extracting, I guess, that knowledge out of people, and then seeing how you can put that together and do it the best way. So yeah, that's really interesting of how that works, and some awesome experience, because it's a skill that you know, is really important, you know, to move businesses forward. So yeah, I really love that. And so, you know, let's go to a why, and saying, like, why are, you know, knowing the numbers in a business so important?
I've seen projects where I really thought to myself, like, why are you even doing that? Like, you won't ever get a return on investment. Why are you doing that? They're like, yeah, it's cool to have that. Well, just because it's cool, it doesn't mean you need that. And so, I mean, I've seen so many companies jumping on trends where I just felt like, I mean, you don't even have any idea of what this will cost for the company. And you have, even worse, no idea how you're going to monetize that back. So it's, I mean, especially when you work in corporates, I think people lose their sense for, you know, how much money. I mean, I think 2 or 3 years ago, there was a huge report where I think it was Lidl, so a German discounter for food and like everyday shopping. They were like bombing, I think 300, no, even more. I think it was 1.2 billion altogether. So they really bombed big amount of money for nothing. Like, they had a system, they developed it themselves, and it's still not working. I was like, why would you do that? And then people are too afraid or too proud to admit that there's a mistake, and they should rather stop the project, which would be logical. No, they just dump in more money. And I was like, I mean, a normal small business owner could not even afford that. You would be broke by that point in time already. So, I mean, this is where I just saw so much waste in the economy, where I was like, if you just use that money for something reasonable, then you would really make a difference. And I mean, I'm not saying you cannot make mistakes. Of course, you have to make mistakes. How else do you want to learn it? But the point is, like, you need to know at a certain point in time, should I still pursue that, or should I just stop doing that? Many people are like not focused. They are all over the place. And then you have all these different projects that you want to do. And that's okay, but you have to think about what is the right sequence to get that done. What will give me the biggest return on invest in the shortest amount of time, so that you can focus on that one first. Then once you get the money back, you can start tackling the other things. But then so many people try to do everything at the same time. And I'm like, you're not going to make any progress if you try to focus on everything, because you have to split your time to all these projects, and you're not getting any grip. You're just like, you're turning, and this is what happens to many small businesses. They are turning their wheels, but nothing is moving forward because they're super motivated. And then you realize, if you're not making any progress, you start getting demotivated. You know, and then you start losing the motivation, and then you want to quit because you didn't really find a right way to move forward. And so that is where I really this is where I usually come in. And like, for example, one of my customers lately asked me, like, hey, I want to do an online course. And I said, okay, great. Did you ever do one before? Yeah. How is it performing? Well, it doesn't really sell. Well, maybe let's look at that one first, because just putting in another online course won't fix the other problem, right? Because if your course doesn't sell, that's a different problem than the content, because I usually think the content is not the problem. Usually the people know what they do, they're experts. The content is not the issue. It's how do you sell it? So I was like, okay, but if it doesn't sell, let's look at that one first, because you can make as many courses as you want, but if they don't sell, you don't have a return on investment, and you want to earn the money you pay me back, right? And even more, obviously, so that you also have a profit. But it doesn't work if you if you just try to put another course in there and just dump it on top of what doesn't work. And that's usually where many other service providers I met in this industry, unfortunately, they will just do what the customer says. They will say, hey, let's do an online course. Okay, give me $4,000 and then let's go. But they will never ask the questions like, okay, how are the other things performing? And they won't even see. And then in the end, you spend a big amount of money. You have an awesome online course, but it doesn't sell.
Yeah. And that's really awesome points. It really shows, a testament to how you are and how unique you are, that, you've got the best interests of the client at heart. It's like, I want to move your business forward, and, yes, I want to help you whichever way I can, but what you think that the issue is may not be the issue that you need to work on right now. And let's fix that first, whatever that is, and then we can move on to the next thing, like you said, and build the course second. But if we sell the first course, then once we launch the second course and you got the same process going on for that, then bang, it should just go out of the blocks and sell it accordingly. So yeah, that's really awesome. And I think it's a testament to you, to your integrity, and also the way that you work, where you're not just a yes person that a lot of people are. You're actually working out, let me look at this from a higher level, instead of just going, you want this, I'll give you that. So,
and especially I think it's also important, like, what do you need? Like right now I'm looking at an offer for one of my customers. So the guy who wants to have branding consulting, and he has an offer, and that's like $20,000. And I mean, he's willing to pay that, no problem. He has a good income, but I'm like, yeah, but you don't need that. Yes, you could spend that money, but honestly, like there are things inside, like, I mean, you are one person with an assistant. Why the hell do you need a style guide for your branding? Like, I mean, first of all, your assistant is a marketing person. They can do it themselves. And you would pay them, like, I don't know, 20 months before you have that same money spent, and then she would be having fun doing that, number one. Number two, like, you are just two people. I mean, she just needs the color codes and then she's fine. She doesn't need a book, like, and just for that book, they're charging $5,000. I was like, you don't even need that. And like, he was like, I don't really know, like, I never done this exercise before. I have no feeling, like, it sounds good, but I said, like, yeah, but look, they're doing, like, for architecture, they want to have $5,000. They want to have for the website construction itself another $5,000. And I was like, first of all, I don't like self-developed websites at all, because how do you maintain them? You always need the experts again for changing something, because you cannot maintain them. So I mean, I'm having all my stuff on WordPress, but I can change it myself. If I want to change it, I just do it. And I think this is where I'm also very keen on. I want you, even if you don't want to do it yourself, at least make sure your assistant can do it later on, because otherwise you're stuck in this constantly spending money for stuff that actually is not worth it, So this is where I'm also having an eye on. So this is something he doesn't even see. So he doesn't see that they will develop a website. I can say from the price and what they put in there, I can say they are going to program something. That means that you will not be able to go in there and do it yourself unless you're a coder yourself, which you're not. Yeah. So, but those are the things that I'm making people aware. And like, I didn't even tell them my opinion yet, but I'm already working on an alternative. So I'm already in contact with somebody else and trying to figure out, could that be a better fit? Even a person in place where the customer is also located, so they could sit together, which for branding makes totally sense. Because my customer is very visual, so they could just sit and draw, and it makes it a lot of easier than if you have conference calls all over the world, which is possible, but it would make it easier if there's somebody on site, But those are all the things that, like, he doesn't even have on his mind right now. He's just like, I have a strange feeling. Can you just look into it? And I'm looking and like, please don't do it. You're wasting so much money. I mean, even if he's willing to spend 20 grand, I'm not saying it's not worth the money, but it's not necessary. This is an exercise I would recommend for a big corporation to go in. Yeah, that's fine. For them, it's no problem. They would need all of that, but not a small company like that. It's just a waste of money.
Yeah. And like, I'm, quite, across, the branding and things side of things. And I think, you've got to look at, there's obviously different, quality of people, right? And the different, the brand and everything, how long it is. And there's a lot of different things about what price and quality, right, of what they can charge. And I think with anything, depending on what stage you're at, right, if you literally just start from day one, you just get nothing, the absolute basic, create a website yourself that looks half decent and you go on. But then you get to a point where you want to take your brand to the next level. And yeah, you want to find someone and, I'll put a plug in here, may as well. My partner, right, Irene Emily, she's a branding, consultant, specialist, graphic designer, website designer, marketer as well. And, she does an awesome job. And, she what she does for her clients and the process she takes them through, and she doesn't charge the ridiculous 20 grand. She definitely, it's not $100 either, right? But
sure.
it's an actual...
Totally fine. I think you need to pay the right price for the right thing. I mean, absolutely. Value needs to be paid. Absolutely.
That's right. And she'll do those style guides and stuff, but I can tell you it would be a lot cheaper, right? Than what that's quoted. So you could potentially speak to her after, but
please send me, because I'm in the process of screening. So I'm a sourcing expert. So, I always like to have alternatives and see what's the best fit also in terms of because even though it may not really be the entire project, but there are different elements to it. And maybe the person I'm speaking to may not be able to cover everything. So I need an alternative. Yeah, please send me the data.
And she's very much in the same sense as you, right? Where she builds the website so the clients can edit it themselves, right? Which is very against what other people do, right? Because other people want to try and keep the client so they get the changes. Where, my partner Irene's like, you know what? I'm going to create it depending on the platform, whether it's WordPress or something a little bit simpler like Squarespace or whatever it is. Let's work it, with what you want to do. And then that way, we'll make it look visually and obviously have all the right setup for other, sales and marketing elements. And, that way you can do it. So she's very much, in that same mindset, which is really key, right? Because I know me as a business owner, I don't want to keep having to pay money where I don't have to, and either me or my assistant or whoever it is, someone in the business can adjust it. So I'll definitely, I'll pass it on since we're on the topic, but it's so important because a lot of people don't really think of these things, about what's ideal, down the line.
And I mean, that's maybe the great lesson for everybody in here. The reason why actually this topic is now in discussion, it was already almost closed and my customer would have almost just paid them, but they were not responsive after they provided their offer. They just didn't respond for 3 weeks. And then he was like, now I'm starting to get a really bad feeling. If it already starts like this before it's even paid, like how will this be once I paid and they have their money, because they want to have their money up front. So how will this be when I'm not even having leverage now, when it's not yet paid? How will this turn out later? And I promise you guys, it won't get better. So if you have a dumb feeling before you close the contract, don't close the contract. Like this is what many people always say: hire very slow and fire really fast. So don't wait. Like if you have a strange feeling, don't go forward. It won't get better.
Yeah, so true. And that's to their own demise now. And now they're actually going to get a better result. So that's life, and you got to follow that intuition, that gut feeling, like you said, that feeling. So that's really awesome. So what numbers do you think are the most important to track?
First of all, of course, depending on the size of your business, but first of all, probably your cash flow, especially when you start out, because that is the fastest thing. If you cannot pay your debts, if you cannot pay what you need to pay, you're already out of business. So no matter how great your projections are and how amazing your product idea, if you cannot pay your bills, you have a problem. So I think cash flow is definitely the most important one to keep you running. Once you have your cash flow, then it comes to other things. So once you can pay everything and you are fine and you're settled, then you can look into the specifics. And then I think it depends on where your focus is, but definitely it will be of course, your sales KPIs. So in terms of like how many people you speak to, how many sales you make, and so on. So all these typical sales KPIs, like your conversion rates and everything, because that is just like, that keeps your business running. And I think many people do this mistake. They close some deals and they stop doing sales. Don't do that. You always need to keep selling. And even if you have to build up a waiting list, don't stop selling. Because if you fall, you usually do certain activities. And I think this is a very big thing. Many people don't track where their sales comes from. And that is very tricky, because you do a lot of different actions every day. You spend a lot of energy on doing that. And then you don't even know where your sales comes from. And then the problem is that when you try to focus, or when you start having less time because you have more customers, you need to understand, where do I have to focus my efforts to keep customers coming in? And many people don't track this. So they just keep doing everything. And then when they can't do it anymore, they start stopping things that take the most time, but they don't know where the customer comes from. So maybe they are stopping an activity which actually brought them the customers in. And that is very dangerous because there's like the cause and effect, if you know that, right? Cause and effect theory. So if you don't know what caused it, you will not get the effect later on. So many people do actions, they stop the action, and then they wonder why they don't get people anymore. Suddenly, like, it's right out. And then many other people also try a lot of different things, and they start setting things in motion, but they don't keep track of where it came from. And then when they finally get the customer, they think that their latest action actually caused it, which usually is not the case. Usually you triggered something way before that already with one of the other actions, but because you didn't track it, you can't replicate it. And then you have a problem, because then you keep doing the things which actually brings no results. And then you waste a lot of time. So this is really important. So your sales KPIs are really important for your business. And of course, on the other hand, you have to look at your costs, because as you grow, as you get bigger, you will be very tempted, especially when you start earning money, you will be very tempted to start adding costs, because it's not so hurting. It's not painful if you have the money coming in. But if you have a bad month, you also have to pay those costs. So you have to always keep your costs in check and make sure you don't increase it too much. Or you have at least a check and have some reserves built before you go into that, because you will have a roller coaster in business. It's normal. It will not always be good months, even though I wish you all the best, but you may also have a bad month in between, and then you still have to be able to cover your expenses.
Yeah, definitely. So important. And, I think the key word initially is momentum, right? Is you got to keep that momentum going. And I fell under that trap at some point where, I was making good stuff, and then I was like, oh, I'm too busy. I've got to focus on all these projects. And then you're like, shit, I haven't been focusing on the sales. So I've got to, then it takes a little bit of time, like you said, to build that momentum up. So that's definitely something that I tell people as well. It's, so important to do all of that. And track everything. Like you said, it's you don't really think of it at the time. You get stuck in the thing, and this is why having somebody from the outside like yourself is, to give these pointers to people and help them to really understand that is so important for business owners. And it depends on the business with cash flow, right? Like, I have I had consulting business, my first business, and that was very project based. To begin with. So then, the cash flow is like this. So it's always fun. And then, you work out, okay, how can I get some more recurring revenue, right? And then you sort of work on those deals, and then you're like, okay, now I can breathe a little bit more and, do more things like that. So you really got to understand, how you sort of, I guess, do a combination, or if you are, individual transactions, is how to, get a lot of them by hitting your numbers, like you said, so that you can, technically still get the ongoing stuff by at least hitting your numbers. So it's, very interesting when you look at the business. So really awesome points there, Mona. Loved it. So, so how often, should our numbers be analyzed so we can make decisions on those?
Well, actually, I mean, many people that start out never do that until they have to until they have to file their first tax. So that's, I would recommend you in the beginning much more frequently than later. I mean, when you have an established business and you have fixed cost positions, you don't have so many changes, then it's really more about just checking what the bank balance looks like. And then the rest will be pretty much set up already. When you start out, you definitely should know at any moment in your month how much you have on your bank account. You should always know that. If you don't know what's currently on your bank account, check it right now. Because that's your most important indicator on how your business is going. And I think when people don't understand if they can be, I mean, usually what I'm doing, for example, I'm doing cash flow projections. So like, how far do I get? And like, how much business do I have to generate until a certain point in time, so that you really also have your goals. Because if you don't know what you're working for, I mean, I know many people say like, yeah, I want to work as much as possible in the least time. I mean, this is something I learned in university. That's an economic principle that doesn't exist. You either have a certain fixed amount of time and you try to maximize it, or you have a certain result you want to achieve and you want to take it with the least amount of resources. But you can't take the least amount of resources to get the maximum result. That's not possible. It's not an economic principle. So you have to think about, okay, how much do I have to make? And then how can I achieve that in the shortest time? Or, okay, I have this time right now. How can I maximize the output of that? So that's usually what people have to look at. And then based on how much you have on your account, you can pretty much calculate that yourself. Like, how much do I have to make? What are the actions? And then really track what you do. It doesn't have to be super sophisticated. I mean, seriously, you can just take an Excel sheet and say, okay, how many people did I speak to today? How many people were positive? You know, and then you really have to think about, okay, what works best? I mean, in the beginning, just like everybody, I had no idea who actually are my customers. It just turned out that I found the right people on the way. But then I looked at them, okay, what is different with these people than with the others? So once you stumble into something where you're like, oh, wow, that could be something really cool, then you really have to take that. And I mean, I just spoke on the weekend with somebody who's also an entrepreneur for 4 years. And I said and she was like, yeah, I have to analyze my customers' language. And I was like, I mean, just talk to your customers that you have, and then you know their language. It's very simple. That's the easiest you can do. Like, just talk to them and listen to them. Like, they will tell you everything you need to know. And I was like, yeah, you know, I'm not really sure. I was like, just pick the customer you had most fun working with, because that's the customer you really want to have more of, and find out what was their reasoning. And then she told me, in 4 years, I never had a customer that I had fun working with. I said, okay, now you have a different problem. You're working totally in the wrong area. Like, if you never had in 4 years fun, you're doing something seriously wrong. Because I have fun in every project I do, you know? So there's something literally off. So that is something you have to track. Like, am I still, like, are the people I'm working with right now really the people I want to work with? Because if you are in a negative mindset, and I think this is more your expertise actually, but if you are negative about what the people you work with, you attract more of that. It's not good. I mean, when I worked in consulting, we had a phase in a company. I mean, I'm really like a positive person by nature. So I tackle every problem head on. I don't care how difficult it is. I'll figure it out. I know. And I know that nothing will be thrown at me that I can't figure out. So I'm very confident that it will work. And so I came into the consulting, and we hired some young people, and they had some really negative energy. And I entered the business building, and the first thing I heard was curse words. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, that's like new language. Like, what is wrong? So I went there and I was like, how can I help you? What's wrong? This stupid customer said, this is the wrong attitude right there. That if a customer calls you up for asking for an advice, you should be happy, because first of all, they pay your salary. And secondly, like, be happy that they admit that they don't know it, so that they come to you and ask for your expert opinions, or what's your problem really? And I think this is a mindset topic that you have, first of all, no fun, and secondly, you attract the wrong people. And I think this is something you should check. This is not a KPI in itself, but you should check that every day. Like, if you realize you're not having fun doing what you do, and I'm not saying every day is cool, not at all. You will have negative days, okay? But you have to understand, like, is it still something I enjoy doing? Like, for example, I'm a lot in support hotlines, figuring out how things work, because that's what I do for my customers. That's not always fun, but I enjoy the end result. So when I figured it out and I know it works, I have a successful day, no matter how the day itself was, right? But if you don't have this joy for what you do, you will not stand for this very long. So if you don't have this positive energy, you will quit anyway with the next problem. So to keep that in check, of course, then keep, again, your cash flow, of course, in check. And then also check, what are really your measures? What are you doing? What are you spending your time on? I've seen so many people who are wasting weeks, months, hiding behind their PC. Like, I need to build a sales funnel. What do you want to sell? Coaching. Just call people and say, are you interested? Like, you don't need a sales funnel at all. Yes, of course, if you want to scale it, if you want to make it bigger, if you want to make advertising, yes, then you need it. But like, just to get started, like to sell the first 10, 20 things, just get out and ask. And it's like, yeah, but on Instagram, and it's like, just say, DM me. Like, they just need a way to reach you. And invoicing, just make a stupid Excel sheet and send it over. Like, make it a PDF and send it over. You don't need a system. Like, I had one person coming to me, she wanted to have a CRM system, said, how many clients do you have? 10. How much do you make with those 10 clients? 500 euro, forget it. No business case. Like, just take an Excel sheet and track it manually. Like, you won't even have a chance to re-earn the investment that I would have to put on to implement that project within the next 2 years. Like, what's the purpose of this? You know, like, there's no business case. But then they want to have these fancy things. I was like, but look, this is not making any sense. You're trying to invest in something which is not going to bring you any return. And then I also asked, like, how much can you earn? Because she's in a very specific legal situation. It was like maximum like 3K a month. I was like, okay, now you have 500, 3K. Even there, it's not enough space to really make this happen. So such things people don't consider often. They just want to have it because they think it's like this fancy new object, like, hey, I want to have it, everybody has it. But then it just doesn't make sense. And then you're spending money, overspending money, and you're not tracking how the return comes in. And I think most people have no idea how to track their return. They spend it, and then they never even look at it like, was it worth it? How much did I generate out of that stage appearance? How much did I generate out of this marketing campaign? Like, they never track it. They spend the money like poof, and then like, okay, but what's the return? what monetary value did it add to your business now at the end? And I mean, sometimes there is no monetary value. If you make branding exercises, that's more the image. You can't really measure that necessarily in money, but it has to have a serious impact on your business. Do you now get more customers coming in? Do you close them faster? Like the bestseller offer is the greatest thing, you know. I didn't write the book to write a book. I mean, I like writing, yes. I actually, some people told me I have a talent there. I didn't even know about that. They said, like, write another book. I was like, I'm not really sure if I want to write another book. One was actually enough. But the point was, this is a branding tool. So now I can call myself a 5-time Amazon bestseller. So I can have totally different conversations with people. And like, if I now talk about my book, before it was like, hey, I have a new book. Would you like to have an interview with me? Like, I could talk about my new book. And now I can say, hey, I'm a 5 times Amazon bestseller. Should I share some value with your people? It's a totally different conversation because people look at you very differently just from this first sentence. So yes, it will definitely have an impact. And of course, I will have a strategy on how do I monetize that whole thing to make sure that I'm going to get the return on invest back. But that's what most people don't do. They will just do something and then like let it go. It's like, no, you have to track what you do and you have to analyze, okay, should I do more of that? If somebody comes again with another opportunity like this, should I do it again? Or should I keep my fingers away because it doesn't bring any difference?
Yeah, so much awesome gold and amazing points there, Mona. And I think the key way to probably summarize that is awareness, right? And you know, initially, like you said, there's a mindset component to that as well, where what's the thoughts, what's the energy that I'm putting out there, which affects myself, but that can also affect, as you said, what you attract in your business in terms of clients or even results that you do and things like that. And that can actually be a real, you know, key driver. You could have like the best systems, right? That, you know, you implement or somebody else, but if the person has these thoughts, then that can actually be detrimental. So that's where, you know, as you get seasoned, you become more aware, but this is where coaches and mentors help to really flip that, if, you know, depending on how you've been brought up and where your mindset is at, right? Because everybody's different at that stage. But then it's also, like you said, an awareness of, you know, what do they actually need? Who do I need to help me? I think so many people, you know, want to do things themselves because they, you know, they start, you know, I understand when you first start a business, you know, you can't, you know, get all these different people in to do stuff because you got to make money. But as you start to do it, it's like you want to get the experts in, get coaching and mentoring, get consultants that for specific reasons where you're lacking so that you can move forward quicker, right? Because if you're going to do it by yourself, it could take 10 years, right, to grow a business to like a small amount. But you get some, you know, coaching, mentoring in your mindset. You know, you get some people that, you know, consultants like yourself or something with systems. Like, okay, we're going to scale your business now. You're ready to do that. You know, let's implement these systems. Maybe you need some other business skills that you need to learn from someone as well. Like whether it's selling, you know, the most important you know, skill in business is selling, so that you know, if you can't sell, then you don't have a business because there's no money coming in. And how that works, whether that's yourself over the phone, whether it's automated, you know, with sales funnels and things like that, or a combination. You know, there's a lot of different factors there, and really understanding that. So, and you know, that's where someone like yourself really you know, looks at that view and says, what's best for you right now, which is really amazing. And you know, I guess, you know, when we, you know, when we want to implement new systems, you know, how should we approach it strategically?
It's a good question. So first of all, you always have to start with your needs. It doesn't make any sense to start researching the market if you don't know what you need. So for example, I just helped somebody 2 weeks ago, and she had very clear requirements. She needed to be able to book groups in. She needed to have a connection to an invoicing account. So she already had a fixed account that she was working with. She had already other systems. She needed to connect with that, and she needed an automatic tagging. And it's pretty simple. So it's 4 or 5 key requirements that you're like, I need that, you know? And then when I basically looked at a system she picked for herself, I was like, but you know that 3 of those 5 key criteria are not met with that system. She was like, what? But the system looked so good. Yeah, but did you look at what you really need? Because your key criteria, like for example, it wasn't possible to book a group meeting in there. So when you have like, she wanted to do trainings and then 10 people were allowed to book in one training, it wasn't possible. So this is the first thing that you told me you need, and that thing can't do it. So that's already a killer. I wouldn't have even need to look at anything else because that thing doesn't work, you know? So, and I also wrote the provider, was like, is there any plan to change it? Yeah, we have it on the agenda, which means like in the next 2 years, maybe we have it. So if a provider tells you, yes, it's soon going to come, what's the date? And if they can't tell you a date, it's not there yet. It can take years. Just to have it on the roadmap doesn't mean anything. I worked in product development, I know it. Don't let yourself be fooled by that. And basically really start with your requirements. That's the most important. And split your requirements, because what I've seen so many years is I want to have everything for no price. That doesn't exist. Be very clear about that. Be clear about what is it that I really need, where I would be willing to pay money for, because that will be your key decision driver. And anything else which is nice to have, put it in a separate list. Any system that is covering all the minimum criteria, everything you must have, and then you can look at, okay, what else can it do? Then you can look at your nice to haves. And if you have, let's say, 3 systems who cover all your mandatory requirements, that's great, by the way. Then you can check it, okay, how many of the other things are met? What's the price for the different systems, and which category do I want to range? So for example, you can have a CRM system for $10 a month, which is going to cover your requirements, you know. It will not be the super Ferrari like the Salesforce, but you're not paying the same price as the Salesforce, right? So you will have to look at, okay, what do I really need? What is my business case? And then you match the system against that case. And if it cannot fit the case, don't buy the system, because it won't make any difference. If you realize that there's no system out there, then you have to look again at your requirements. Sometimes you need to split them in 2 systems. So for example, if you want to have a CRM system that can also invoice and create legally correct invoices and go into your sheets, you will definitely need 2 systems. Because an invoicing system is not a CRM system. There will be linkages, yes, but it will definitely be two different systems, right? So, and if you look, for example, at ClickFunnels is not doing the invoicing. You have an entire sales funnel, that's perfect, that's what it is built for. But the invoicing piece is not integrated because it is very, very complicated with all the rules and the changes. So you will need a separate system for generating your invoices, which you just have to understand where's the system break. But if you look at the description of a provider, you will see very fast what is their core business. And if you see, okay, it's a CRM system, then you know that the accounting can be pretty much already forgotten to be in scope. So that's what you really go from your requirements and then make a list. Like, it doesn't have to be extensive. Like, okay, what is my 5 criterion that I need to have? And check each system against that, put the price below, and you already have a very fast overview. I would recommend you to do test phases of such things to really get a feeling. Like sometimes things sound really nice. And when you're in the system, you're like, okay, where's this button now? And then they're like, well, you have to take the other version, which is costing €300 more a month. So you have this button. You're like, okay, that's not what I understood. So often when you see descriptions, they look very, very deceiving because they're like, oh, this looks so nice. They have everything. But then what they don't tell you in the description is that there are different packages and you will have to pay more for certain things, right? So for example, if you work internationally and you have multi-currency, that usually is a higher package because, you know, it's a lot of effort technically in the background to do multi-currency stuff. So it will be more expensive, but they don't tell you this in the beginning. They say, hey, yeah, we are multi-currency able. And then you're like, awesome, I take the free package. Well, it's not included there. So just be aware of such things and then really test it. Like go in the system, test it, try to configure your flow and see if that would really work, and only then decide for software.
Yeah, so many awesome points. And like you said, what's mandatory, what's definitely needed, and what's a good have. And I think testing is a really good topic in general with business, right? So obviously it's a system things definitely, but it's also with a business, right? Like it can come into other areas in sales, testing your products and services. And, you know, it's even like sometimes basically, you know, testing even selling it if you can before it's actually created, you know, that's the ultimate test if you can get that. Not everybody can do that, but then that really confirms your test that people will actually pay for it as well. which is really important. That's as long as you can do a quick turnaround after, or you call it a pre-sale or something, or whatever it is in that way. But like you said, it's still relevant for systems and numbers as well, because and that's where these good trials are, you know, pay $1 for 14 days or 30 days or whatever. And
just be sure that you quit early enough. Otherwise, you slide into something.
Yeah, that's all right.
For the 2-day reminder before it happens, to make sure that you quit in time.
Yes, that's right. So it's very important to do that. Or you know, sometimes they put you in at a certain level, but there's other levels as well to make sure that you go down levels if you don't need the full package or whatever like that as well, which is another killer that these systems like to do. But yeah, and it's interesting because everything is now, you know, like SaaS, it's all subscription type stuff now, and you know, and that's why I guess you know, your ongoing revenue is really important in that way, because that's how everything is paid. That's how we technically pay ourselves a wage, you know, so it's important, like, you know, with the cash flow and monitoring all these numbers to make sure that you can do that. So yeah, really really awesome points there. So what should we you know, watch out for when we're implementing these new systems? I know you sort of mentioned a little bit there, but is there anything else that we should watch out for?
Well, document it, definitely, because what most people do is, I mean, I come from an IT space. I mean, when I left my old company, I documented everything. And I mean, I always did. Whenever I left companies, I documented everything. And I remember I got a call, like, I think a month before I left the company. I'm like, hey, I saw your documentation. Somebody from the IT called me. Hey, I saw your documentation. Can you do that for the interface as well? No, because I didn't do the interface. I don't even know what's in there. I can tell you what is supposed to be in there, but if you programmed it, I don't know. So it was like, I mean, the person who's setting it up has to give you documentation, and that often doesn't happen. So if you have somebody coming in your business, implementing something, not just the login data is important. It's much more like, what is set up? Is there any special thing configured? Like, where do you find your master data? All of the things, if you need to change something in the future, add a new status, add text, whatever it is in your business, you know, maintain your customer data. Where do you do that? Like, let them make sure training videos to show you, like, okay, this is what I set up, this is what I did, because if somebody else comes in later on and they don't know what is done or why certain plugins are installed on your website and what are they needed for, if that is not clear, they will just switch it off and suddenly like your whole website doesn't work anymore for whatever reason, right? So it needs to be documented, especially in technical things, what exactly is implemented. Where's an interface, which system you may not see, like if you have a Zapier integration, you know, like you need to know that there is one, because if you start changing fields and you start changing descriptions of fields and the name, suddenly the integration doesn't work anymore. So you may be even technically possible to change the name. Sometimes this is forbidden in some systems, but if it is possible and you have an integration to another system, be aware that this could actually kill the integration. So such type of things usually get forgotten. So they're like, hey, the system is up and running, awesome. But then nobody thinks about, but what if I have a problem in the future and that person is not there anymore? Will I have all the information together that I can still actually hand it to somebody else and say, everything is set up, is in here. And then you know what to do with that, right? And that's really important, because I've seen this even with huge company who are stock listed, they don't even do that. Like, I mean, just imagine somebody's ill and they can't continue doing what they did before. Like, how do you know what the current status was? I mean, it takes so much time to work into the details of, okay, what did they already do? Where did they leave off? You know, it's so much work to figure this out. And if you are not an expert in that, like, you will have almost no chance to understand where do you have to even look for the data. That can take you a few months to really figure out if you have no idea. So that can take a lot of time if you don't have that.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's doing it, it's rather straight. It's rather easy to just document what they did. They know where they were, you know, so for them, it's easy.
Yeah, so important. That's like, you know, the business manuals or, you know, standard operating procedures, whatever you called them, you know, to really be created. And, you know, and as business owners, when you sort of get started, you sort of don't think of these things because you're doing everything and you want to create them yourself. But I think it's when you start to scale a little bit and, you know, like you get a VA at some point or, you know, some other staff in your business, then that's when you can help, because you then have to teach it to somebody else. And then, you know, whether or not you create it for them or you do a general gist, and then they can create the documents as they do it, so that you don't have to do that, and you can focus more on the, the revenue generating things as well, which are more important in a business. So important there. And yeah, it's really quite interesting how, like, a lot of people don't think of these things, and the effects that it could have is, disastrous to slow a business down. And that's not what you want. You've got to, I can see it, the way you think. It's always thinking in the future, right? Like, you want to be in the present moment where possible, right? Of course, but in business, you need to be in the future, because
Absolutely.
like, what could possibly happen? Good things, bad things. How can I preempt things? How can I, risk management, whatever it is so important,
Absolutely. I mean, you always have to come from a point of, okay, what if the world goes down, will my business still stand, right? So if I'm not there, can somebody else take over? If my assistant is gone, can a new assistant really just take the files and continue moving with that? Like, you always have to come from this point of view. And it's not to say, like, I expect the worst, not at all. Just be prepared for the worst. And then, if it happens, at least you're prepared. I mean, I just read yesterday an article about crisis management and how the companies who actually had a plan for a crisis performed way, way better than anybody else. Because the people who are not prepared, they're just struggling in the moment and they're just trying to survive in that moment. But the ones who planned ahead, they're like, okay, plan A, let's go. So scenario A happened. Okay, let's take the plan for scenario A and let's just move forward. And usually they're very successful. They will also have hits, yeah, but they will recover much, much faster because they know what to do.
Yeah. So important. That's, pivoting the business, especially, with COVID at the moment, with, businesses that were very front facing, whether it's a store or in person, everything changed. And that's where Zoom, became massive after that, with being able to do things. And I think it's really created a lot of good stuff, because not only, can you do a one-on-one meeting or something like that, but you can do things in groups. You can even, create the setting of having breakout rooms where, you can have, it's like almost having a table of people, like little masterminds or things, where you can do on that. There's a lot of cool features that, really connect us. And I think it's actually helped us to connect more internationally, like globally, this thing. And, a lot of people can be doom and gloom and all these things, but, as an entrepreneur, as being a successful person, it's like, okay, how do I make the most out of the situation? What do I need to change? And what are the benefits? When you focus on those things, then that's what happens. My business has, been thriving in the time, and I'm sure yours have as well. And it's because of that mindset, right? That we do it. It's so important.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, there were two sides of the thing. So you could really see the businesses who were not yet in a financial situation that they are stable enough to really sustain that. They struggle. They really struggle, because suddenly their income breaks away and they have no reserve. So they really struggle. But then the other side of the entrepreneurs, and this is usually my main customers, is the ones who are really established. And they use the time and say, like, okay, let's speed up some projects. We anyway wanted to digitize. Let's just do that faster. Like, before we had a plan until the end of the year, let's do it in April right now. Like, let's put everything live. So they understand that momentum. I mean, I just met recently somebody who was doing event management, and like, she was not prepared. I was like, so what did you do in the past 4 months? Well, first of all, waited. Okay, that's mistake number one. You never wait in business. You have to make things happen. Now it's slowly coming back. I just had another entrepreneur who also wrote a book pretty much about the same topic as I did. And they were pushing for a release in May. The publisher said, like, do it later, like, let's not do it right now, because their strategy was to go to fairs. But you already knew in March that in May there will be no fair. That was already very foreseeable. Still, they were pushing on it. I was like, so what was your strategy? Like, now you have the book release in May, right? And then you had a strategy of going to fairs, and now the fairs don't happen. So what did you do? Well, we started a reading circle. So mean physically? Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, honestly. So there would be 1,000 other ways, like doing this like via a webinar, like there's so many other things how you can do that in any other way than that. But like this thinking of, okay, I can't go to a fair, so I make a reading circle, doesn't make any sense to me in a scenario where people cannot meet. There are 1,000 other ways what you can do to monetize. You could start doing interviews with other people, get together with other influencers, get the book out like this, like use the online channels. You can start doing your own webinars where you have, first of all, much more reach. I mean, this is what I offered. I mean, the book I wrote is in German. So, of course, many of my friends who supported me in the book launch, they can read it. So I said, okay, I know that many of my other friends are English speaking. Actually, the majority are English speaking. So I offer them, okay, let's do a webinar. I do two because I have international friends, one for the Eastern time zone, so Australia, Hong Kong, and so on, and then one for the American time zone, you know. And then basically I will summarize the book for them because currently there's no time plan when the book will be launched, but they purchased it. So I said like, okay, let me give you a treat. I will summarize the book for you and then you can ask any questions you want. You know, this is like what I came up with. The publisher didn't tell me that. So I came up with that because I wanted to make sure to get this bestseller status, which is the branding why I even did that.
Definitely. So important. And yeah, that's really awesome. I like, that's your strategic thinking. It really shows that you're way ahead of most people. And maybe just while you're on the topic of the book is just to explain a little bit more about, what you cover and help people with in there.
It's about time management. I was approached by the publisher and they said like, would you like to do something about time management? I said, well, I mean, actually I'm helping many of my customers. I'm not really offering productivity trainings or anything like this, but it comes naturally as when I implement things that I realize people don't have time to do things. And I'm like, okay, what are you working on right now? Let me see your calendar so that I can help you out to make it happen. And I mean, I come from a consulting background as said, so I'm used to working in parallel projects all the time. So usually I have like 10 balls in the air, making sure nothing gets dropped. That requires some skill set that you can train. I totally believe productivity and time management is 100% a learnable skill, but many people get this totally wrong. It starts with what is time management even at all? Like what is the real meaning of the word? Most people don't even know that at all. So they get it totally wrong. They try to do as much as possible. Again, that's no economic principle. It doesn't exist. So there's a different approach to that. Then also like, why is it even such a big topic now? I mean, 100 years ago, nobody cared for time management, honestly, right? So why is this today such a big topic and why will this even be more important in the future going forward? And then I gave a toolbox. So it was, I really, my father and also my husband are handicrafts. So they always have their toolboxes. Every tool has the right purpose. And I think in time management, it's the same. You have for every situation, you have the right tool that you can use to have really quick wins and to make sure that you can improve something really fast. And at the end, I'm also giving you, I call it a productivity staircase, a way how you can improve your productivity really fast and also on a continuous level. So how can you check yourself every time how good you are in productivity and time management? So it's really considered as like, you don't need any other book in time management if you read that one, because it pretty much summarizes everything you need to know about the topic. And it's written in a really practical way. So I hate fluff. Like when I read a book and I'm like one sentence and like blah, 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 I'm not reading that. So I hate that. And I was like, I mean, actually I was finished after 40,000 words and then the publisher said, hey, you need 60,000. Well, not cool. So I expanded some topics which make sense and I went a little bit more into detail, but I hate fluff. So it's really straight to the point. I ended up with 60,000, I think 500 words, which mainly came with the index. So it was just on point. And yeah, it's something, as said, I mean, I am passionate about time management because I do it myself every day. I just heard last week from a customer, like, are you really still like, are you not doing a little bit too much? I said, like, for me, that's my normal pace. It's my normal pace of working. When other people are like, oh God, when did you do that? Like some people ask me, like, when did you write a book? Well, at the beginning of the year already. Then, like, when did you do that? Like, you were always busy. Yeah, busy doesn't mean that I mean, yes, I'm doing a lot of things, but I'm not busy. So I'm taking time for things that are important for me.
Yeah,
definitely. That's what most people don't do. They just work, but they don't look at what is important for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I know I've been in that and most people are, and that sounds like an amazing book. So I look forward to improving my time management skills and everything when you do those webinars and things in the future. I look forward to it. And, following that, you also have, your own podcast, called
Yes.
Success by the Numbers. So do you want to just let everyone know a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so there we speak every week about some KPIs and how you calculate them, and you hear some funny stories of myself. I'm planning to do a little bit more also some visual things, like showing you some systems and how you can really set up such things in systems. But I need to a little bit prepare that a little bit better, because I don't want to waste your time. So I want to make sure it's in 10 minutes, and make sure you see everything that you need to see in there. But it's really about like a lot of about really the different KPIs in your business that you have, starting from the cash flow, like giving you templates also how to calculate that. And of course, giving you practical examples, what you do with these data, because in the end, I really believe having numbers just to have the numbers not making any sense. You need to implement and make sure, okay, what does this number tell me? Like when I look at a balance sheet, I can see immediately, okay, that number looks really high. What is behind that number? Show me the details. Then I can dig in there very fast, because I have an understanding of if I have a service-based business, and I see a lot of inventory, something is really wrong. Like, why do you have inventory? Like you're having a service-based business. Show me what is in there, And this is where I'm really good, because I have this background. I mean, I started my career in accounting, as I said, so I can read a balance sheet really well. And I want to enable you in that show to do the same, like to look at your business and look at any business and say, okay, this looks really weird, or like, why is this number so much higher than in my competitors' cases? Like, what am I doing differently than my competitors? If they can save 20% in this one position and I can't, then I'm doing something wrong here to be competitive.
Definitely. That's really awesome value. And I follow and listen to your podcast, and it is really awesome. So I really definitely, everybody know to jump onto that. It's really cool. And, and those numbers and accounting stuff, like, I've done an MBA, and, I've done the accounting side of things, and just that knowledge of it, like, it just makes a big difference, like you said. So when you get your reports, like if you've got like an online, accounting system, like if it's Xero or MyOb or QuickBooks, you know that when you're running these reports, you know what the numbers are. And like you said, you can look at other things depending on what type of entrepreneur you are. Like maybe you're looking at other businesses and things like that as well. So you need to see whether you're helping other businesses, whether you're looking at potentially buying a business or whatever like that. You need to understand, what these numbers mean and how to dissect them. It's really important. And that's where someone like yourself, instead of someone having to do an accounting degree or an MBA or anything like that, you can give them the key information about this is what you need to look for, which is gold, basically. So yeah, that's really awesome, Mona. So, we met through our networks and follow each other's podcasts, and, you have a lovely personality where you always aim to help people with solutions to their business system challenges. The Germans are renowned for their robust systems, and you're definitely one of the best in Germany and the world at determining the best tailored solutions for each business. So I'm very grateful that, we connected, and looking forward to working with you in the future. And
I'm looking forward to have you on my show, because as we spoke before this whole show, I realized that Athin has a great reporting background, so he can tell you also a lot about numbers. And I'm going to have him on my show so that you can definitely also check out that side of Athin, because I was really surprised to hear that about him. And I was like, oh, awesome. We need to dig into that a little bit, because I think he has some really great knowledge on that one as well.
yeah, awesome. Thanks, Mona, and looking forward to sharing more on that as well on your show. We'll leave that up to that for everyone to get a bit of a taste, so they have to follow yours to get a bit more about me there. Thank you very much for your time today, Mona. I'm sure many people have greatly benefited from your valuable wisdom. So how can people find you and get in contact with you?
They can find me anywhere. I'm always saying I'm very easily Googleable. If you just Google my name, you will find me everywhere. So of course, you find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, just with my normal name, Mona Tenjo. You can just usually just reach out to me. Tell me, like, usually what I like is tell me where you found me. So if you listen to that show, tell me that you listen to that show, because then I know how we met. Like I usually am very careful with connecting with people I don't know, to be very honest, because they're really weird people out in this world. And I'm very protective on my inner circle. But if you say like, hey, you listen to Athin's show, I know where you come from, and I would definitely accept your requests. So, and of course, you can find me on my website, Work on Your Business. We have always a little dash in between to make it easier readable. So work -on-your-business.com. You also find it just on, if you go to my social media, it's always linked there, no problem. Other from this, I mean, I don't give my phone number out. So
Smart.
That is all people who know me better.
That's it. That you got to get more into the circle for that. I agree. That's
no, because I have my clients are right brainers. If they have my phone number, they will call me all the time. So I'm very selective who I give my phone number.
Makes sense. And that's why they need you, you know, as the left brainer logical person to come in and help them with their business, because that's not their strengths. So that's really awesome. You know, so thank you everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way we will know is if you tune in next time. Until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. Have a great day.